coming in right now. Okay. I think Brian's walking in right now. So welcome, everybody. I would like to call to order the November 18th, 2021 regular meeting of the Marysville Board of Education. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Luke is absent at the moment. Ms. Savage?
Here.
Ms. Powers?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Devine?
Here. And?
Mr. Bryan's present.
Yes.
I had to get creative with the parking.
Okay. I know that parking lot gets pretty
I hope I didn't block
full.
too many people in.
Thank you. And now if you'll all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Let's see, tonight we will start with a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved.
Oh,
Second.
yes. Motion by Ms. Powers, second by Mr. Smith. Roll call.
Ms. Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Luke?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Ms. Devine?
Yes, motion carries, and I realize I just kind of switched some things around there, right? Different start time, it's throwing me for a loop. And now we are at a favorite part of our meetings, recognizing an employee. So we have an Employee of the Month. Ms. Allen, if you'd like to share some information with us here.
Perfect. It's my pleasure to, I wouldn't even say introduce because everybody knows Joe, but Joe, come on up. I always make you stand here and be embarrassed when I talk about you.
Yes, and then we will do the motion after you have spoken, okay?
Yes. Do you want me to, do you want to go
ahead, you can
All
share.
right.
And then-
So, without reading, I would just say, if you've been in Marysville any time at all, you know Jill is the face of Bunsell Middle School, always smiling, always happy. But it's my pleasure to read to you what your peers said about you in order for you to get this nomination. Jill is always so incredibly kind and warm with everyone in which she interacts. She also helps tremendously with all the confusing things like ordering supplies. Having her as a place for assistance and guidance has been so helpful during my first year at Marysville Schools. That's pretty nice from our first year person, isn't it? Yes. Jill is a wonderfully bright spot in our building. She greets parents, staff, and students with the warmest welcome, which I couldn't agree more with. Mm-hmm. Jill is extremely organized and keeps everyone in the building on the right track. I don't know, that's a full-time job, right? Jill is hardworking, helpful, and always cheerful. So congratulations, Jill. We appreciate everything you do.
And with that, I would accept a motion to approve Jill as the Employee of the Month.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Smith,
Second.
second by Mrs. Powers, and I'm sure we have some comments to add to this, so I'm opening up the floor.
Yeah, I'd like to say that I've known Jill for a long time and known her family, everybody in her family for an awful long time. And she is a tremendous asset, not only to our school district, but to the community. The Cements family, as they have moved their tentacles through all of our community, has just an amazing impact. And she is certainly, as was said, the face of Bunsold. And I'm really honored to know her. And this is a well-deserved and long overdue recognition.
I couldn't agree more. You know, like you said, walking into Bunsold, I just feel like she's like that teddy bear, that blanket. You know, she wraps you in her warmth and caring, and we really appreciate her. So, okay.
I just want to say thank you also. When we were there touring this week, there was a comment. I think you've been through several principals there, and you are the steady hand that
Yes.
keeps that ship flowing in the right direction. So we appreciate everything that you do.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I love the school district, and it's been wonderful. 38 years and a couple more to retire, and you all are wonderful. It's a great
Thank you. Well, you're a big reason for that, so, thank you.
Beat me to that.
Okay. All right. And now the roll call, please.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Powers? Mr. Luke?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Ms. Devine?
Yes, motion carries. It's official. Thank you again so much. Yes, it's fine. Sure, thank you. Yes, you are excused, Mr. Cements. Okay. Yeah. Okay, no, that's quite all right. We're glad you could be here to share in this celebration, so, in recognition.
Thank you for coming.
Yes. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I don't know. She might keep working when she thinks about the reality of being home all the time, right? Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, next on the agenda is a COVID update.
So we wanted to just follow up with you as we do every month and kind of give you a summary. Last month, obviously, we went back to mask optional. We've also recognized a change with the quarantining guidelines, so we'll kind of give you an update with that. And then we've also met with the parent task force at least one time between the last meeting and this meeting, and kind of give you the lowdown about that conversation and where we're headed now with that group. We've kind of stuck to this central theme. I think I see this slide in my sleep, but we're sticking to really trying to keep everyone in school throughout that experience. And then I'm going to let Mark hit those slides, and then I'll pick up on the parent advisory.
There's a table right there. Put my knee right through it. So yes, I did want to provide just a quick update on where we're at in the district with the COVID situation. As you can see on our current reporting system, all of our buildings and departments are green, or we have no impact across the district. So we have low to no impact across the board there. And based upon our cumulative experience, we've had 351 student cases to date, 1,057 standard quarantines, which would have been an out-of-school quarantine, 1,295 modified quarantines for students. And on the staff side, we've had 45 staff cases, 22 standard quarantines, and 64 modified quarantines, for a grand total of 2,834 COVID-related events in Marysville schools to date. We currently have 112 active cases in quarantine, so the overwhelming majority involves students, so 45 student cases and 61 standard quarantines are currently active, so those have not completed isolation of their quarantine yet, and then 4 staff cases and 2 standard quarantines, for a grand total of 6 on the staff side. We have experienced some volatility in the zip code case rates. This is something I try to provide an update on every time we come together. And I provided some previous dates on when we'd met with parent stakeholder groups and when we were last together. And we've kind of had this up and down and back up movement, so like a V shape on our current case rate. And it actually mirrors some other data that I'm going to show here momentarily. So at the present moment, we're 638 per 100,000 cases in the 43040 zip code, and 617.3 per 100,000 in the 43067 zip code. Like I just mentioned, we have seen this volatility pattern in other sources of data in the area, one of them being the wastewater data. I always try to provide an update on the wastewater data. We did see a spike on November 7th, and that was also mirrored by that peak in the box down below that matches the case rate for Union County, or the case rate in the water reclamation region, and that was on the 10th. So we have seen some volatility in the wastewater that has also corresponded with volatility in our case rates as well. And what I will point out is down below, just kind of keep that shape in mind on the case rates. I know the thermostat's in the way a little bit there, but just keep that shape in mind with, cases being low, spiking, and then dropping back down. If we could go to the next slide, please. Because that actually mirrors our case rate within the Marysville schools boundaries. So these are our kids and our staff. This is our 7-day rolling case rate. And so it corresponds almost directly with what's been happening on the community side of things. But what I can say is as of this afternoon, we are at 49.3 per 100,000 cases in the last 7 days. So based on the CDC's transmission guidelines, we're in moderate transmission right now. Like I said, we did have some volatility there, just a couple weeks ago.
So we did meet with a parent advisory group and really talked about next steps. We talked about the dashboard. Does anything need to change with that dashboard? We talked about re-engaging with some parents who have kind of fallen off the wagon a little bit to reignite that interest. Our commitment has been to move forward and meet one time a month, so those are all pre-scheduled. Most of them, generally speaking, were okay with Zoom or in person, even though our in-person or Zoom meetings seem to be better attended. So we're going to talk to some other members and see how we want to keep those going, but once a month. And really, we had a lot of conversation on, how long do we keep the dashboard? Is there information that needs to come off the dashboard, be added to the dashboard? And so we'll be continuing that conversation moving forward. General sense was, let's get through the school year, probably keep the dashboard through the school year, but they wanted to talk about that again in January, so we will do that again at that time.
Okay. And I guess I was kind of curious, have you had any, have you had to make any classroom-specific recommendations or changes, things like that? Because last time when we met, we said, okay, we're going mask optional, but if there should be a situation where we feel like it would be helpful to mandate in a certain classroom or building, then you have the authority to do that.
Right,
so.
and we have not had any of those instances. The one area that we continue to watch, just for a variety of reasons, not just COVID, I think that's important to understand, is Edgewood.
Yeah.
They have some extenuating circumstances with some staff members, and for example, they were down 10 staff members this week, so we're keeping a careful eye on that as well. So I think in those situations, the other staff are really picking up the load. It's been a heavy lift. Yeah. I know all of you visited buildings this week, and I'm sure you heard that story. Our teachers are really doing everything they can to keep kids in school and having a can-do attitude to cover when other people are out, just quite frankly because there's also a sub shortage, as you know. So it's kind of layered on layer.
Right. Okay, great. Any other questions from that update? Comments? Okay. Next on our agenda, public participation. And I believe we have one person who has signed up. So, Bill, I'm not sure if you're familiar with our process, but for public participation, it's really an opportunity for you to present to the board. You'll have 3 minutes. Todd, our treasurer, will keep track of the time for you. It's not really meant to be a conversation kind of a thing, but if there are some that you share that we feel need to have some follow-up, or you're interested in follow-up, we'll make sure that happens. So with that, if you would start with your just giving us your name and your address, and then your 3 minutes will begin.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Bill Steele. I live at 16903 Moore Road. I taught in the system for about 30 years, so old people might know me, young people won't. And I hate to throw in anomalous information based upon what I just listened to, but that's primarily why I'm here. I'm going to read this so I don't digress too much. I've attended many board meetings, well, a teacher, but very few as a plain citizen, since I generally have great confidence the members will do the right things, make the right decisions. This is one of those rare instances when I believe a truly bad and dangerous decision has been made by lifting the mask mandate. Since it was lifted, all 3 of my grandchildren have contracted the virus. While the first was fully vaccinated, his symptoms were relatively mild, though significantly uncomfortable. The second to come down with COVID was not near so fortunate. Tristan was too young to receive the shots and consequently had a much worse experience. 3 days in Children's Hospital most likely saved his life, as he also contracted pneumonia, which is to be expected sometimes. He's still slowly on the mend, and we hope this trend continues. In the meantime, our youngest now has been tested positive too. It's too early to know how her symptoms will progress. Their parents followed all the best practices as suggested from the onset of this problem, including full virtual schooling last year. The children have sacrificed many typical social experiences as they tried to keep them safe. Having taught science for over 30 years, I've had a fair understanding of how issues such as this pandemic are studied and the resulting information provided to the public. The evidence is cumulative and continues to provide those specializing in the field with what guidance and what actions should be taken. In modern times, most leaders have chosen to follow the advice that is shared. The politicization and polarization involved with this crisis is very disconcerting. I assure you I have listened to my share of complaints and criticisms over the years as a science teacher, but never felt the need to succumb to the loudest voice, but simply followed the information provided to me by experts that I needed to share with my students. I wish the members of this body would have learned from the accumulated data and advice the experts at the CDC, the Ohio Department of Health, and the Union County Health Department have provided. Possibly my own grandchildren and many young and old people alike wouldn't have needed to suffer. As you could probably tell, it's a somewhat emotional thing for me, and it's still up in the air on what happened. But that's my statement.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you coming to share that, and certainly we feel for you. And so.
As I sit there and watch Tristan come out of Creekview, because I take him home and he rides the bus to school, coming from Creekview, he's the only kid wearing a mask. Their childhood asthma, he's very much at risk. Wears his mask to school, in school, out of school. He wears his mask when he gets to start with him. So for him to come down with us, no doubt my mind where it came from. But like I said, I taught science.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, next up on our agenda, we have Mrs. Lentz from Raymond Elementary here to share a presentation. So welcome to the meeting. It was nice to see you yesterday. I think Mr. Smith and Mr. Keck saw you on Monday, so.
Okay, I think I'm on. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, not only to come and present, but to serve as the principal at Raymond Elementary. It's definitely been a great way, just a step in my career, and I appreciate that, Diane, every day, and hopefully can continue to do so for as long as she'll have. Well, no, I'm not going to say that because I know. Yeah, we're kind of nearing the end here, but it has definitely been. I won't say everything that I thought it would be because I honestly probably had no clue. I've learned a lot over the years, but I appreciate the opportunity for sure. And just happy, honestly, to be back presenting. It's been a while, so I'm a little rusty, so you'll have to forgive me, but it's all good. So I wanted to start today just to kind of give you a recap of where Raymond ended the year last year. So I thought I would start with our state testing results, and I know that you get that information as well, but I just wanted to kind of also provide some trend data so you could kind of see kind of where we were, what our trajectory was, and then obviously we've kind of hit just a little bit of a blip in the road, so I wanted to share that information with you today. So I thought I would start with third grade ELA. Again, you can kind of see we were definitely on the rise, very proud of our accomplishments with our students and our staff. Obviously, these are not, it's not the same cohort. These are different groups of children each year, but you can see, and I do feel like this was a result of the initiatives that we've put into play with personalized learning. Also, some of the initiatives with our MTSS program, we were definitely making great strides. Last year, again, a little bit of a hiccup, but overall, considering everything that was going on, and for us, I joke, but I say like 10% is like 4 or 5 kids for Raymond. So it is a smaller number. Every child matters, and we want to hit 100%, obviously. But looking at the 72% that hit the mark, we were pleased with that, but still definitely work to be done, of course. Math, a similar situation. We've actually been doing fairly well over the last 3 years in math. Again, and this was a little bit of a higher percentage overall in comparison to our ELA, but again, we almost hit the indicator at 80% for third grade math. Fourth grade ELA, again, we were, you can kind of see our trajectory. We took a little bit of a dip in 2019, a different cohort, different group of kids with some different needs, but again, last year, 75% of our students still hit the proficient or above. So I was, happy to see at least 75% of our students. Again, we can do better. Math, we had 74%. I keep teasing Mrs. Goodman. I really thought the 2020 was going to be her year to hit 100%, to be quite honest. But we'll get there. We know what to do, and we will get there at some point. But I do feel like with the state tests, our third and fourth graders, they were probably better able to work independently. So in some of the learning scenarios, the learning situations that we had, I feel like our intermediate kids, our older kids, did fare better. They're just able to work a little bit more independently, could be on the computer independently, maybe while parents worked, that type of thing. So I also wanted to just share the beginning of the year iReady data with you. Thank you. So I tried to go back and also kind of put it in context for you just a little bit. I went back and I'm going to share with you what our window looked like and the test results look like last year at this time. But then I also wanted to highlight and just share, and the window number 2 is actually mid-year. So our students take that. The first window is at the very beginning of the year, and then window 2 takes place November, December. So you can even see, our boys and girls last year were making gains. And this is fourth grade reading. So we're coming in this year similar to last year at about 44% that's on grade level. Obviously not where, we want our students to be. But I will say, in addition to what I've already shared, we also, the window was a little bit sooner this year, so it closed a little bit sooner. In the past, we've had through September 30th to administer our iReady assessments. This year, most of the grade levels accomplished that goal by the end of the end of August, 1st of September. So it was a little bit tighter window. I will say that did help us with moving forward with Tier 2 intervention, So it was the right thing to do. But I will say some of our students sometimes just need that time to kick the rust off a little bit and just get back into school and routines, especially with what we had experienced. Thank you, Marcus. Math is a little bit lower, and typically our math coming in over the summer tends to be a little bit lower. Not quite this low, but we do see math as typically coming in off of the summer months as a little bit lower. I need to think about that because we do so much over the summer with our summer reading programs and things like that. I think parents know what to do, like just getting books and going to the library. There's just not as much emphasis sometimes, I feel like, on math. So I really want to, after I kind of sat and, you go back and you reflect, but I'd really like to think about that and to think about maybe doing some sort of, where we usually do our summer reading program and they have a bingo sheet and they do different things, but doing something with math just to keep them engaged with math over the summer. You will notice, though, that, again, that, while they do come in sometimes at a lower percentage by the second window, again, I feel like they've kind of kicked the rust off, oh, this is what, I remember how to do this. And in addition, I do know just, and I think I shared with some of the board members, just that stamina for doing school, I think was a little tricky for some of our kids at the beginning of the year. So, we are getting ready again to do that second window coming up, and I'm looking forward to seeing the growth that our students are going to make.
I think what's kind of impressive, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, yeah.
But your most at-risk numbers are actually smaller in both categories for fourth grade this year than previous years, right? So
Yes.
I think that's
Thank you. I
kind of
should have had.
No, I just, while you have that middle yellow zone, I know that's troubling, not where you want them to be, but
For sure.
certainly that high-risk category is a positive, really,
Yes.
that it's shrinking.
And those are the 2 or more grade levels below, which in the past, and I had gone back and looked at, and I didn't want to bring all my data, but, in the past, we've had years with like 0%, in at quite a few grade levels. So, again, we know what to do. We just have to get to it, right? So I just thought I would go through, I'll share, third grade, and again, it's a different cohort from last year to this year. But I just wanted to share, last year the group definitely made good gains. The 38% for this group in reading, and I'll share some data with regards to the third grade guarantee. This third grade is my group that right now it's all hands on deck. And I'll talk about that in just a bit, but this is the group, if you'll remember, in first grade is when everything hit. So again, we have work to do. But I will say our teachers are tackling the challenge and hitting it with a head of steam for sure. Math overall tends to be low coming in. We'll go ahead and go to second. And for our second graders too, they don't have as much experience on iReady. Typically, the only experience they have is at our building is with math. So for them, this is the first time that they typically have seen iReady reading in second grade. So sometimes these initial windows, it's just them also not understanding the program or and to be quite honest, iReady is challenging, which it should be, and our math percentage as well. So I did want to share, for the third grade guarantee, if a student at the beginning of the year is deemed not on track, then we need to develop something called a reading improvement and monitoring plan. For our kindergartners, that determination, we use the KRA. So you can see coming in, and of course, this is done right out of the gate. By September 30th, we have to have the KRA for early literacy accomplished. So really no instruction has taken place at that point. So you can see we have this year about half of our kindergartners are coming in, not on track. Last year we had 23, but so now we can kind of compare cohorts though. So 23 kindergartners last year were on RIMS. This year, only 18 of our first graders are on RIMS. So that was a positive. Our kindergarten teachers, I know, worked really hard. So that was definitely a plus. One thing too that, I'll continue with the first and second grade. So last year, you can see 14 first graders. This year, moving into second, that number has jumped. So we've added about 7 students that we need to monitor a little bit more closely, probably provide, which we are, that tier 2 intervention. And then second grade to third grade, you can see a pretty significant increase there. I will say the instrument that we're using for first, second, and third has changed. So in the past, we were using a cadence and an oral reading fluency. This year, we're using iReady to accomplish that goal. So I feel like iReady is definitely, it's more comprehensive. So we're looking at informational, how do they comprehend informational text, and just lost my whole train of thought. So sorry. Informational and the opposite of informational. My goodness, Diane, she's looking at me like you have lost it. I'm so sorry. Anyway, but iReady is definitely is more comprehensive and not just looking at an oral reading fluency score. So, hopefully, and in addition to that, I know we've had quite a few move-ins. I shared, about 30 students, a little more than 30 students actually, that were not with us last year. Some that are first graders. I have first graders that weren't even in the building last year, so they've never experienced school yet. So I think a lot of factors are coming into play with that. But again, it's data, and we need to take a look at it and see what are we going to do moving forward. Sorry, my little arrows. Thank you. So I guess from there, I wanted to just kind of share, where did we begin? I think it was important for us to talk with the staff, keep the main thing. And the next slide, this is the main thing, our kids. And it has just been amazing to see our boys and girls back in the classroom, and something as silly as using manipulatives, and being able to use it, sorry, it's in your sleep, that slide, I know, right? But being able to work with a group and, collaborate with your peers, that has been definitely a great way to start our year. Go ahead, Marcus, I'm sorry. So again, this, I know you've seen this this slide, but the goal has been to have that instruction 5 days a week, and I am thrilled that we've been able to accomplish that goal. Go ahead, Marcus, thank you. Putting kids in front of our teachers and with our amazing staff is just what we needed. So I am thrilled to have that opportunity this year. This was something that I talked to the staff at the beginning of the year then. What are our beginning goals? First and foremost, I told them we have to kind of rebuild those relationships, getting to know your learners, establishing those standard operating procedures, just again, developing school routines. For some of our students, just being in the classroom a full day, they had not been doing that. developing that classroom community and going back and implementing our PACS visions again, and again, building relationships. And not only with our students, but with our families again. I feel like, not having parents in the building, it was different. I miss them. I miss that connection and those interactions, and I know our teachers did as well. It's one thing to, I think, email and be able to do things virtually, but just to have that, personal connection is important. So a challenge to teachers, I asked them to build relationships this year by understanding their DNA. And I'm not going to lie, I snagged this off the internet. The best ideas are borrowed, I think. But in the past, we've done our PLPs, but I wanted to take that spin just a little bit. So I asked them to ask their kids and to talk about their dreams, their needs, and their abilities. And, I know teachers looked at me and were like, okay, one more thing you're asking me to do. And I said, it's going to be worth it, I promise. I want you to sit down and I want you to have a conversation with every single child. I know it's going to take time. I get it. And it has taken, this is a display from one of our kindergarten teachers. And bless her heart, she's just now got this up. It looks amazing. But some of the things that, our kids are telling us, I loved Callie's, I'm good at helping mommy babysit and make bottles. What does she need help with? I need help learning all of my letters. All of my letter sounds. I want to learn to write stories. But I'm good at taking care of kids, writing down stuff. I'm good at my alphabet. I loved Emily's, I'm good at spinning and jumping and doing karate. And of course, these are kindergarten answers. But I think it's just important to talk to kids, and especially after, the things that we've been through, what are your dreams? What are your aspirations? And it was kind of neat to see how each grade level took this. While I kind of gave them the structure, this was how our first grade team decided to display this. And if you'll go ahead, and there were some cute ones. My Riley, I want to be an artist and I want to be a teacher and a doctor. So she's got high aspirations. She can do the monkey bars. She used to be afraid of the zip line, but now I can go off the diving board. I can build. And she wants her teacher to help her learn to read and draw. I loved, Gage wants to be a farmer, and in college he's going to be a tow truck driver, or tow trucker, he said. And again, he wants his teacher to help him learn to make muffins. So I think, just again, connecting with kids and talking with them. I challenge them then to use this in their day-to-day. If someone is going to be a farmer, maybe he's got those skills and he can share that with the class. Or when they're doing writer's workshop and they're writing stories about, personal narratives, then, hey, why don't you write that story about, helping your dad in the farms. So this was second grade. So again, everybody kind of took it and did it in a different way. But it was just a great way, I feel like, to start the year. And I know you kept peeking at it. I said, wait till tomorrow. I'm going to talk about it tomorrow. But from there, we did establish some building goals. We need to continue to strengthen our Tier 1 instruction. And I know some of the other principals have shared the TBT structure that we have in place. We want to identify those Keystone Standards, which we've done, embed that Tier 1 data analysis of those Keystone Standards into those TBT meetings, refining and ensuring that mastery grading practices, we actually need to get back to doing what we were doing. And I know that, might sound redundant, but, we just need to get back to it. We were there and we were making great gains, but again, a hiccup, but, we can do it again. We have to continue monitoring our MTSS process. And, I know I said all hands on deck. It really is right now all hands on deck. providing some intervention. Our instructional coach is taking, she has groups. The speech teacher, she's taking extra groups. Miss Dara, my amazing reading specialist, her schedule is packed. Intervention specialists are working with special students that have IEPs as well as non-IEPs. It just depends on where students' needs are fitting and how can we best meet those needs of our students. We're going to continue to monitor that progress. The new system, the Acadience, is amazing. I can get in and I can kind of watch those little dots going up, and that's just what we want to see. But you know, we may have to make some adjustments along the way. So we'll continue to monitor that. We're also implementing our ELA framework, doing a Shifting the Balance book study, which is really, I think, helping. I have a lot of staff that have been around and been in the district a while. And so we need to know, you know, how to take the good pieces of what we were doing in the past, but now we need to enhance that and change that based upon the science of reading. And our open court materials last year, I felt like the teachers, they did it and they used those materials because I asked them to, and that was an expectation. But I don't want it just to be compliance. I want them to understand the reason that we're using open court and using decodable books. And so we were able to sit in with Kara Lee, who is actually our Orton Gillingham trainer, and we did just this past PD day, we were able to sit and listen and take in. I'm learning, you know, you can teach an old dog new tricks, and I've been learning quite a few. But it's a paradigm shift in some of the things that I was taught and believed in. But it's what we need to do, and it's the right thing to do based on, you know, you just have to keep learning and growing. So again, teachers, we're digging back into the learning continua so they have access. And sometimes I'm going to be honest, you know, maybe a third grade you have to dip down in and look at a second grade standard. What did that standard say at second grade, and where are some of the gaps? But our teachers, you know this. They know where to go for the information, and so that's a good thing. In addition, again, talked about it a little bit, Keystone Standards, we identified them by trimester, and then, so these are the standards that, not that teachers still aren't teaching all of the standards, but these are the ones that we're focusing on in our TBT time especially, to say how are students progressing on these particular standards. What do we need? And sometimes, you know, the coach can provide, you know, maybe if you tried it this way, or, you know, use this particular strategy. So Beth Ann's great at supporting, and honestly, just giving teachers the time to talk together and come up and share their ideas. I think they do that naturally, but also with us as a support system to say, what else do you need? How can we help you? How can we support you? With Beth Ann and I. Again, we need to get back to our mastery learning attributes. I know this is nothing new, but we just need to get back to this. And also our Raymond Habits of Mind and PACS. I think PACS took a little bit of a back burner last year. I think sometimes with the hybrid model, maybe behavior issues weren't as prevalent just because of the smaller numbers. But that's not all PACS is for. I mean, PACS is about, you know, teaching regulation and helping students grow. And so I am excited to get back to that. Thanks to Mark, we were able to get our new staff. I have 3 new teachers this year, and we were able to get all of those teachers trained, so thank you very much, much appreciated. And I see them using it in their classroom already, which is awesome. But, you know, just being reflective, resilient, resourceful, respectful, if there's ever a time that we needed to be those things, right? Our kids were definitely resilient. And it's nice to be able to, I think, recognize that again, giving our Roar Awards. And, you know, I get to have lunch with the kids again, and I don't feel so bad about mixing cohorts. I can still spread them apart. But just getting back to some of those things that make, you know, school fun and amazing. And you just love seeing those little smiles. And again, I also wanted to just give a shout out, and I know Diane does a great job, and the board, I know the teachers so appreciated you guys coming and seeing what they're doing, and just thanking them. I know they appreciated it, but I also, I try to tell them, you know, every day, but they are amazing, and yeah, hard workers. And I just wanted to end with a congratulations to Mrs. Miller. After 24 years in the district, I know she's on our agenda later, but we were able to do a clap out. The kids were able to say goodbye. So I just wanted to publicly thank Connie for her service, and I thought she'll shoot me for putting her picture up, but it had to be done.
And it's being live streamed too.
I know, right? I'm sure she's not watching, but I'll text her and tell her that.
Yeah.
All right, and I just wanted to say we've got this. You know, it's going to take time, and I think we talked about that a little bit yesterday. But you know, we're going to get there. It just may take time, but we know what to do. Oh, I was going to say, the rest of it was my extra slides. We're not going to show those. You know, it's kind of like, okay, how long, what to share. So, sorry.
Thank you,
All right.
Mrs. Lent. And
Yes.
questions, comments?
I just wanted to thank you. I know we're going to talk about the building visits later, but I thought that DNA project was excellent. I think concentrating on getting to know the kids and knocking some rust off of that relationship building and reestablishing what it's like to be in school, because for some kids this is kind of even their first experience, first graders, first time in school. So I really appreciate you putting the effort to build those relationships up front.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know Mr. Keck and I had a wonderful time visiting the building, and I think kind of your opening statement that caught my ear was, we know what to do. And that's very much what we saw yesterday as we went through the building. We saw people that knew what to do and were deeply engaged and focused on doing that. The number of kids that had smiles on their faces, and particularly the first and second grade, gets a little bit more risky when you get to high school and middle school ages. But when you walk into a first grade classroom or kindergarten classroom, you can always ask, do you have an amazing teacher? And all the hands go up. And some of the teachers got 100 billion, 1,000 million thumbs up, which is always exciting. And that was very, very evident in Raymond. And so I have every reasonable expectation that the kids are going to have a great year. We also saw that the challenges were not, as you've talked about, not just academic, but learning what it's like to be in school, learning how to share, learning how to sit,
Yes.
to take turns, to be quiet at some times and to be expressive at others.
Yeah, the kids are better at that than I was. I was there too. I was able to.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I've got my own thoughts about it, but go ahead.
Yeah, but I apologize, Brian, but it was a great experience up there, so thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Go ahead, Mr. Luke, I'm
What I
sorry.
wanted to share, because you're there every day and we're not, so
Yeah.
things may hit you a little differently. What I felt was how positive the morale, the feeling of the students and the teachers both was they want to be there and they're happy to be there. And that's a really, so much of it comes down to that. And I wanted you to know that I felt that walking through the building,
Oh, thank you.
you know, and when you put building relationships as first step and the last, you know, it shows. It's a real community there, and I think that's key to the educational project. My kids went there 10 years ago, and there were teachers, when I walked in the door, that asked me how they were doing. That was 10 years. So really great feeling in that building.
Awesome, thank you. I did have to chuckle though, because Mr. Luke, I shouldn't say, but when he came in and he would talk to the kids, I said, he's like that uncle that comes in and gets them kind of riled up and then he's out the door. It was like, but it was awesome. The kids loved it.
Well, I admit that I was getting them riled up and then leaving, knowing that they're in good hands of professionals.
No.
I don't know how to manage the behavior.
Yeah, no.
I just know how to stir it up.
That's right. That was evident. But it was awesome. They loved seeing you for sure.
Yeah. It was great being in there, and then kind of going back to your presentation here, I really appreciate you sharing all that data. You know, I think it's important for people to see the trends that were happening before, and then just the facts of what we're dealing with now after this change in environment and everything that the kids have been through. And you think there's so much going on out there, so many distractions between health concerns, political issues, I mean, all that kind of stuff. And those kids are like little sponges. They absorb a lot of that stuff, and then they come into the building and you guys have to deal with it. And I'm with you. I mean, that positive energy was just amazing when you go in there, and really from staff, every staff member, and the students. You know, it was a wonderful feeling, and appreciate the leadership that you're giving that building, and just appreciate everybody's willingness to go way above and beyond. So
I appreciate that.
thank you very much.
I appreciate your willingness to stay as long as I'll have you.
No.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Okay. I think we are to the High Point report now.
Okay, just a couple things from the High Point Board meeting, which was last night. We had 3 students present on their different professional business organizations that they represented at a national level. We had a young man with Business Professionals of America from Riverside, and then a young man from the Diesel program, and he was from West Liberty Salem. And then we had a young woman from Triad that represented the DECA program. And they did a wonderful presentation, and it really shows that those particular programs really help build kind of presentation skills, and it was pretty impressive. The young woman is not going to college. She is getting her realtor's license and entering real estate, and she's going to be working in Marysville for Jim Wimmers. So that was just interesting point. Couple things they got from the kind of legislative update related to technical schools. 30 absentee rate last year was up 35%, and then 55% increase in homeschooling rate. And a lot of emphasis given by both John Husted and Mr. DeWine, Governor DeWine, excuse me, on technical education and the importance of technical education, as a large number of people are retiring out of the technical fields. We have vast gaps in those fields, and companies are contacting technical schools around the state on a daily basis, looking for support in those areas. And there's a lot of support available right now. The programs show the return on investment of a technical school education are extremely positive, and you can get certifications right out of technical schools, whether they're a High Point program or a High Point satellite program here at Marysville that allow them to enter the workforce. And that's it. Thank you.
Any questions for Nan? Thank you, Nan. Superintendent report, Ms. Salad.
I don't have a whole lot tonight or this afternoon. We completed our first strategic plan meeting last Friday with our community group, and Mrs. Devine and Mrs. Savage both attended that. It went really, really well. Really what we worked on was kind of going back in history to show our evolution till now, but then also did some projection work. So what do we know about the future? What are some assumptions we can make about the future? And we kind of ended with the idea that 5-10 years from now, what would your headline be? If you could pick a headline for Marysville schools, what would your headline be that would capture where you want our school district to be? And we're using that to revise some pieces of our plan, and we'll bring some stuff back to that group in our next meeting. I think that's in January. I have to look up all the dates, but it was very, very positive. I think there was great passion in the room, lots of concerns and worries around growth and diversity and needs of our students, mental health. I think generally that captures it. Concerns with being able to keep up with the growth and what happens maybe if the economy would take a turn. So I thought it was very positive, very focused on our community and our students and our families. So I felt great about that. So excited to move forward. We did receive our first version of the projection study, enrollment study. We're working on a presentation that we will give you on December 9th at our next board meeting in a couple weeks. That is a little sooner than normal, but we will have that ready to go for you. I also wanted to let you know that our Levy committee, community committee, has started to meet to talk about fundraising opportunities. They are planning a casino type night in January. We don't have great details at this point, but when I get them, I will share them with you. But they are looking to do some kind of annual type fundraiser so that it's just not when we're up for a new money ask or renewal that we're doing activities and fundraising. So they're looking for something that they can do on an annual basis. I do believe that's all I have. Oh, I did mention that in the COVID presentation that our parent group will continue to meet monthly moving forward. So if you have any specific questions you'd like vetted through that group, or any concerns or anything like that, feel free to send them my way.
Okay, great. Questions? Nope. Okay, next, treasury report, Mr. Johnson.
Okay, for my report, I'm going to give an update on the permanent improvement forecast. So we're looking at fiscal year 21 actuals. So this first slide here talks about our revenue that we received. Largest stream of revenue is our real estate tax of $3.8 million. Additional $800,000 from the PUP tax, $240,000 from our homestead and rollback. Our TIF revenue is at $1.4 million almost. And then the other revenue of $176,000. That other revenue is mostly made up of stadium donations. Through fiscal 21, we've received close to $700,000 of the stadium donations. Based on pledges, we've got about another $600,000 we should be receiving over the next several years. TIF revenue, sorry, go back real quick. TIF revenue, that was the highest that it's been, but the first, well, I guess it would be the first payment that we've received in fiscal year 22 is actually down. So, and you'll see later when I show them our ending cash balance projections. I have trended that out throughout the forecast and assumed a dip, but we won't really know until April of '22 how significant that dip will be, whether it'll, whether the April payment will be even less than expected, or if it'll fully rebound and then maybe change things. And when you're doing a 20-year forecast, a small change to a projection has a very large impact, 15 years out.
Todd, if I can, could you explain, if somebody's just watching this and hasn't come to meetings before, what the permanent improvement
Fund.
fund is?
Yeah, so
And how it fits into the basic funding for the schools?
sure. I guess the simplest way to talk about it is we kind of sometimes break it down into talking about buckets of money, and we have 3 buckets when it comes to where your real estate tax dollars are going. The first bucket would be our general fund or operating dollars, which is where we're paying for our staffing costs and our utility bills. The second bucket, you could say, would be our bond or debt service fund, which is where we pay off the debt from when we built buildings. And then the third bucket would be our PI or permanent improvement fund, which is tax dollars that are used to take care of roofs, take care of our asphalt, buy school buses, buy Chromebooks, all those kinds of things. Yep. So our total revenue for fiscal '21 was just under $6.5 million. So the next slide talks about expenditures. So you can see we spent less than we brought in. So that's a good sign. We build up our cash balance a little bit in fiscal '21. Total expenditures just over $3.5 million. I'll give you a little bit of details about some of the expenditures. First off, with transportation, we spent $389,000 this year, or fiscal '21. So that was for a total of 5 buses. And again, when I talk about the PI forecast, one of the things that I'm proudest of is our ability to be flexible and change things when something is impactful. So something we did there, we were able to throw a little bit of extra money into the fiscal '21 allocation for transportation because we had a need for special education buses. So we had one special education bus that we were trading in because it was getting old, and we turned around and bought 2. So we bought 2 smaller special education buses and 3 traditional larger transit buses in fiscal '21. A couple other things about transportation I would bring up. This coming summer, we're trading in 3 more buses and buying additional buses to replace those. Once that happens, all of the buses in our fleet will be 10 years old or less.
Great.
So that's a really great news for our district and the safety of our district and having a good transportation fleet.
I know, hey Todd, I'm sorry, but we stopped at transportation, and they were, we asked them, how many buses do we have, and they made comments just about what a great place we're in right now, thanks to that, process of rotating the buses in on a regular basis. So, and even some of the presentations I've attended at OSBA, they talk about where you should be with your fleet, the average age of your fleet. So I'm really happy to hear that, and thankful for the time and effort that you guys have put into making sure that happens.
Yeah, thanks. The last thing on transportation, and this kind of goes towards, I guess, the importance of long-term planning and having room for flexibility. So when we created this forecast back in, I think it was around 2016, at that time, the cost of a transit bus was $84,000. The cost now is $112,000, and probably only going up from there. So there, you definitely have to prepare for the inflation and the unexpected. The next line there, maintenance, that's always one of our larger items, so $963,000. I kind of lump quite a few different items in there under maintenance, but some of the high dollar items in there, we replaced some water lines at Raymond Elementary. Spent a good bit on roofing this year, over $300,000. It was multiple buildings, just sections of roofs. So that was at Bunsold, Creekview, Naven, Mill Valley, and Raymond. Replaced the boilers at Naven, which is a high dollar item. And then there's a lot of smaller items on there. We do a lot of stuff with playgrounds every year, just keeping them safe. mowing equipment, a new truck for maintenance and snow removal. So that's kind of the biggest items there with maintenance. Technology, that looks like a low number. That's more due to timing because the budget typically is around $800,000, but because a lot of the things are purchased over the summer, sometimes the actual expenditure the full expenditure doesn't hit until the following year. So really the number is much higher than that. But the majority of money that's spent out of tech is for our Chromebook replacement schedule. We're also implementing interactive TV panels in the buildings. Curriculum, $441,000. The bulk of that is for the, that one was the science adoption in fiscal '21. We also spend roughly $60,000 every year for College Credit Plus textbooks, which that's our responsibility to cover those. Asphalt, $481,000. That was a mix mostly there with Bunsold, the high school, and Northwood, different asphalt projects in those buildings. You see the MHS gym project, $190,000. So again, that's where the project started. We've got another probably at least $800,000 that'll hit in fiscal year '22 for that project, but that project began in fiscal '21. So that was the gym floor, the bleachers, the HVAC, all of that. Loan repay there of $600,000. So that's a couple different things. A smaller amount of that is, you may remember, we've had, in essence, they're kind of like bonds that have been paid out of the PI fund for several years. They actually will be fully paid off January of 2023. And they're relatively small, but that's what was used long ago, I think, to build this building, to build the receiving center, those kinds of things long ago. So those will be fully paid off. But then also more recently, the loan that was taken out for the stadium, that's coming out of there as well. And as you'll see when we get to our last slide, that we are on track to pay that stadium loan off early, which would be, I believe, 2024. So that's good news. And then finally, other $300,000. That's made up of our district-wide copiers, the security system district-wide, and also county auditor fees. So I always like to mention with the PI forecast, this is kind of my slide where I say it could be a lot different than I expect just because things change big when it's that far out. In fiscal '22, I've mentioned we did fully repay the advance from the general fund. I mentioned that the stadium loan repayment should be repaid fully in 2024, which is our earliest possible date to pay it off and save some interest costs. There are inflation assumptions built into the forecast, so when it comes to those buses increasing in cost, we're okay. You know, we've got the money to cover that, and that's actually built into the forecast. And as always, when new projects come up, that can totally alter what this next slide would look like, our ending cash balance. So hit that next one. So you can see very healthy ending cash balance. Fiscal '21, we built up the balance a little bit with our revenues exceeding expenditures, close to around close to $6 million for fiscal '21. '22, it takes a little bit of a dip because when we paid back that advance. But otherwise, very healthy balance. And the great thing with that is it does provide flexibility when it comes to our facilities. That's it.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Johnson?
I just had a quick question. Maybe 4 years ago or so, when I first got on the board, we talked about the kind of detailed project maintenance schedule being put together, and you guys were in kind of a start-off position. I was just wondering how you were doing with that development of that continual maintenance schedule, project schedule for the district.
I'm not sure what you're referencing. So we have within the PI forecast, there is a detailed I guess, a detailed set of money set aside for each project that there would be, whether it be roofing or flooring or all those kinds of things. And then at a more detailed level, our maintenance department has, they keep track of you know, things that need to be done. What is the age of our boilers and when those may need to be replaced and those kinds of things. And so we meet each year, they meet each year with the building principals to see if there's anything in addition to what's already on their plan. And then we meet as a group and talk about whether there's enough money to allocate and those kinds of things. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, if there's something.
That's what I was referring to,
Okay.
is that there is a schedule out there.
Yes.
Assuring the community that there is a schedule out there and that we are reviewing that on a regular basis. And, you know, we're planning for these things, you know, 2, 3, 4, 10 years out
Right.
that we know are going to have to come up for
And
maintenance
to your
schedules.
point, though, there will be a need to update that at some point to get more detailed level to, we can't have a forecast 20 years down the road and just that was made in 16 and always, assume. So we're going to have to, at some point, bump the forecast out another 10 years or so and probably get a better handle on, well, so how are our boilers holding up and redoing that. So that'll be something we'll have to do at some point in the future as well.
That's what I wanted, thanks.
Yeah, and kind of along that line, one of the advantages of having 3 buckets of money is that this bucket, when we spend money for a stadium or the gymnasium that needed to be upgraded, and we buy buses and new technologies and those kinds of things, those do not impact the operating of the school and the teacher salaries and the utility costs and all those kinds of things that we have in terms of the daily operation. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Next up, my report. Starting with student achievement, the Capitol Conference was on November 7th, 8th, and 9th, and I know several of us were able to attend, and as part of our goals and work plan, we like to share highlights when we have attended professional development. So Mr. Smith and Ms. Savage, if you have a highlight that you would like to share from Capitol Conference. Go ahead. Sure, yep.
One of the sessions that I attended was on legal precedent setting based on post-COVID world. So it's very interesting, and I'll go ahead and send the packet to everyone. They had about 20 cases that they wanted to review. They didn't get quite through all of them. But as we kind of expected, there's been a ton of lawsuits filed across the country against school districts, going on both sides. You know, whether you had masks, whether you did not have masks, whether you had required shots or did not require shots, or were encouraging shots, or and the rulings have been strangely kind of all over the board also. So this is kind of a new area of law where they don't have a lot of precedent, so it's very key for us as school board members to be paying attention and listening to our legal advice that we're getting, because they are studying how the laws are being developed during this post-COVID time period. So a lot of it had to do with special education law, and I think our district did a very good job setting up our schedule where we had A students, B students, and C students, and we had C students, which were very heavily special needed kiddos, had them in the schools every day. There is a whole series of lawsuits where parents have filed that their special needs children were not attended to appropriately during the pandemic, and so I think we did the right thing as a school district, and I'd like to thank our superintendent for setting that direction. But it's going to be interesting to see how all the lawsuits and how laws are changed after this very challenging time period.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, went to a number of sessions, and I'd like to mention that Mr. Keck was able to join us and spent considerable time going to meetings and getting immersed in some of the things that are going on at the Ohio School Board Association, and also what the meetings and learning sessions, how those things might impact and help our district. So I want to thank him for taking that time to go and do that. The session that I want to highlight had to do with levy cycles and levy assessments. As we have already begun discussions about the financial future and of our district and how growth is going to impact that. Much of what was said were things that we have already mentioned, and is that most school districts are on a 3 to 4 year cycle in terms of asking for new money. And we have fortunately been able to avoid that, and we expect another year or so before we really have to take some sort of action. One of the points that was made was dealt with House Bill 920 and the fact that House Bill 920 makes school funding levies flat in terms of the income to the school district. It eliminated any inflation factor that would allow the levy to grow additional dollars over time, and that as a result, most school levies simply replace what House Bill 920 removes. So as tax values, or as the land values and property values in a school district go up, the auditor rolls down the millage that is collected for schools, and schools receive the same amount of funding. And because of the effect of inflation on the cost of operating a school district, we're replacing that inflationary factor that 920 has, in fact, kind of taken away. Looking at formulas, they talked about kind of the thought process of making a decision. We've got a new funding formula for education in Ohio, but it's only set up and guaranteed for 2 years. So we have a significant unknown as to what's going to be our situation 2 years out in terms of state funding. The ERSA funds, how have those fit into our current budget? Our current expenditures have some districts, and I don't think it's true of our district, but some districts have lived on those ERSA funds. They have allowed them to postpone levies, but those were one-time dollars and cannot be counted on. The reassessment of property values, how that's going to take place, and what those values are, and how that's going to impact taxpayers in our community. And they pointed out, I think, two things that are points for future discussion. One was that one of the comments was made, it was hard to pass a levy if you didn't have a plan for services for the kids. And I know we have begun discussions on exactly that. What do we want our school district to look like 10 years out from now? What sort of services do we want? When kids walk through our doors, what kind of opportunities do we want to be able to offer them? But as we think about levies, as we think about the financial future of the district, I think we need to tie those two things together and make sure that we're very clear that, the dollars that would be asked for are the things that will support these opportunities for kids. It's not just a matter of the school district getting more money to continue the current operation, but where do we want our district to grow, and where do we want our district to be down the road? And the second question is kind of related to that, but that was determining your benchmark, looking and saying, as we look at other school districts around, how do we benchmark ourselves? Where do we see ourselves in comparison to the other districts around us? And in many ways, we want to and should, as a community, want our benchmark to be better than all the other school districts around us. And in many ways, that's where we're moving now. That's where we are, and that's where we need to stay. So it was a great and very insightful lesson for the day, and thank you for asking.
Sure, thank you. And, I need to back up a little bit. I should have started my report with congratulating Mr. Smith, Ms. Savage, and Mr. Keck from this last election. We're going to look forward to having you join our group, and I appreciate the time that you took to educate yourself already on trying to become a good board member. So appreciate that, and congratulations. So I'll go back to the session that I attended, since I am the student achievement liaison. I always like to focus on those student achievement sessions. So the first one I attended was called, Implementing a School Without Failures. So the presenter was a longtime educator, and he'd recently served as a high school principal in a district in Georgia that had been very low achieving. And so he said when he went in there, he did a couple of things at the very beginning that I thought were pretty impactful. Number one, he let the students know how much the district spent on them from the time they entered in kindergarten through the time they graduated. And he calculated it was about $130,000. And, you think about it, I don't know if we ever tell our kids that, but just to give them a sense of how much we value them. We're willing to spend $130,000 on you, and maybe it's more. I don't know. Todd, you could probably come up with an estimate there. So I thought that was good. And then he also took the time to give the students examples of jobs and the correlation between education and their future earnings potential, and use jobs that they were familiar with. So it gives them a reason to continue their education. So I thought that was good. Then he also talked about the importance of developing relationships, letting students know you care about know that you care about them by holding them accountable and celebrating their successes. And so it basically was a story about a district transitioning to more of a mastery learning platform when he said, we're going to have a district without failures. So their grading scale was A, B, C, D, and I for in progress. They just decided they're going to eliminate that F because there's no failures there. And he said they would address anybody who had grades below C. He looked at that as an opportunity to ask, what can we do to help you? And because it's important to go into those conversations without anger, without being mad at them for not doing something, because there may be reasons for that you're not aware of just because you haven't asked. So, I listened to all of that, and I thought, well, we've been on this mastery learning platform for a while here in Marysville. And we've been focusing on personalized learning and developing relationships, as we saw in Mrs. Lentz's presentation. So, a lot of times, I think when we go to these sessions, like you even pointed out too, we hear things that we've been doing, and it's affirming to the things that we're doing, and the data that is shared there is affirming because it shows that correlation between doing these things and student achievement. So. That was mine, and I went to a few other sessions, so eventually I would like to try and recap stuff, and anyone else who would like to send some more data information, ideas, thoughts, just kind of share it with our governance team because there's a lot of neat things going on out there. Community coffee. I know we had our last one last Saturday. We'll probably start back up, I think in February. I think we usually take January off. I've been informed that nobody attended this community coffee, so you and Mr. Smith had a chance to.
Chance to talk and
Yeah.
debrief after.
Okay, yes, okay. Chamber of Commerce had a board meeting today, also had a business impact breakfast. Kenny McDonald spoke at this morning's business impact breakfast and gave us an update on economic development with a focus on 6 important traits. He also told us that Central Ohio has accounted for more than 90% of the growth in Ohio over this last year, economically, in economic development areas. So obviously, that does explain the growth that we're seeing in housing and things like that. What I was happy to hear is that there were several comments that either questions or pointing out to Mr. McDonald the importance of partnering with education and business. So that was good. Also at the board meeting, the chamber board meeting that followed the breakfast, I was part of the nomination for next year's board, and I'll be continuing to serve as the chamber board member, education rep. So it's kind of nice to be able to go there and hear different things that are going on in the community and to be able to share with our businesses things that we're doing and the other districts in the county are doing. So also later on in this meeting, our superintendent contract renewal is on the agenda. And just for those watching, I wanted to explain a little bit about the process. As we all know, we have a certain window of time where we have to renew the contracts of our superintendent and treasurers if we want them to continue working for us. And that's state legislation. So the current contract for our superintendent expires July 31st of 2022. The time frame that we have to renew the contract is between January of 21 and March of 22. So the process that we've followed includes reviewing salary comparisons with school districts in our area, as well as working closely with our legal counsel. And our legal counsel handles lots and lots of different superintendent contracts. So when they're looking over things that we come up with, we get feedback. Yes, I'm seeing this in contracts. This is reasonable and legal, all of those kinds of things. As a board, we've also had several meetings, so that's given us an opportunity to discuss the process, talk about the importance of offering a contract that both rewards the work of our superintendent and is aligned with our district's achievement. And we also want our community to know that we have put in a lot of time and thought into this process. So we can, again, that will be on later in our agenda. And then as we've also talked about, we had some building visit days earlier this week. We'll finish up on November 30th. And I'm guessing during our board member question and comment section, we'll probably have a few comments about that. And that's it for my report. Mr. Smith, legislative report.
All of you should have received a copy of the report from me. A couple of things that I would point out. The Federal Relations Network is part of what my responsibilities have been, going to Washington, D.C. for 3 or 4 days. That will not happen this year, as the Ohio School Board Association withdrew from the National School Board Association. There is a meeting that is planned later this month to try to develop some ways for the FRN to continue to function, working with and talking to our members of Congress to make sure that they understand what's going on in our school districts and to make sure that they understand the impact that they can have on improving education in Marysville and in Ohio. A couple of bills that I pointed out. One I think is significant is HB House Bill 229. Covers a wide variety of things, mostly dealing with changes to address issues and concerns raised by COVID. allowing school districts to operate remote learning, to make some changes in the state report card and so forth. And I've detailed a number of those. As we are all aware, there were new quarantine regulations that came out, and we have taken advantage of those. I think we adopted policies that aligned with those recommendations in the hopes that we would benefit the educational process. As has been pointed out at least 3 times in this meeting, our goal is and has been to keep kids in school 5 days a week, and doing that in a way that offers safety and focus on health and wellness. I did point out House Bill 99. Our representative, Tracy Richardson, voted in favor of this. The bill would reverse a decision by the Ohio Supreme Court. The background for that court decision, I provided a little bit of information. Essentially, the Madison School District had a shooting. As a result, their school board passed policies that would allow school employees to carry firearms on school grounds. And the court said that, and they said that they needed to have essentially about 24 hours of instruction. And the court looked at that and said state law does not allow that to happen. That under state law, anyone with a firearm on school grounds would need to have essentially the same training that all police officers have, which is over 600 hours of training. And so you can look at this. The bill would exempt armed personnel on school grounds from having that training requirement. And it'll be interesting to see. It passed in the House. It's now over in the Senate. And so that's something that I felt like that we needed to be aware of. I pointed out a couple of new pieces of legislation that were introduced. One piece that was introduced that was in the local news was House Bill 477. It was introduced by Representative Richardson, that would allow students to exempt from certain vaccines and so forth. And state law for public schools provides that parents can file an exemption from vaccines. And in talking with representatives, executive assistants, he was saying that this particular piece of legislation was aimed more at colleges and universities, where you have adult students that are making their own decisions concerning vaccination, and also employers. So we discussed a couple of issues around that, but I just wanted to find out, was this really be targeting public education, or was it looking at something else? And it seemed to be the other areas and not so much public education. I also included testimony that I submitted along with Todd. He may be surprised to see that I quoted him, but with the Senate Ways and Means Committee on an issue dealing with property valuations in Ohio. And you can read the language and so forth that I submitted to that. So, and that is my report.
Okay, I did have a quick question for you. So on that House Bill 99 about the training, I mean, I know we've never talked about or entertained the idea of having that, but is that, do you have any thoughts on the timing of that, and whether or not that's going to be up for?
Yeah, it passed in the House and
Yeah.
it goes over to the Senate for their consideration. And it passed pretty much along party lines.
Okay.
All of those that voted in favor were Republican,
Okay.
with one exception. One Republican voted against. And so I don't know what sort of greeting it's going to get in the Senate, whether that will be something that the Senate is interested in. Up until recently, there have been a number of significant issues that would impact school districts that the Senate has said they're not interested in even talking about or discussing. And I don't know whether this will fall into that, but because there had been a Supreme Court decision, and because of the fact that this particular law would then have the effect of reversing that Supreme Court decision, would certainly change the landscape for school boards in this particular area. And so I thought it was important to raise that before you.
Right. Well, thank you. I'm sure we'll all take the time to read through that. I haven't been able to read your report yet, so thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question about a different bill, but the gun thing, it's probably good to think about and talk about in advance.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened with Madison is they had a shooting and then there was a reaction to that, but it's the sort of thing that this board or the future board could actually think about, before anything tragic like that happens. The question I had was about, which one was it? I think it's 477. So you said that, according to whoever you were speaking to, the bill was aimed more at colleges and employers and not public schools, correct?
Correct.
But we all know that the aim is one thing, the language is another. So what is the language in the bill? Is it going to end up being applied to K-12?
Well, that kind of prompted my phone conversation because the language was very broad.
So,
And
yeah.
it said schools and colleges.
Well, this is a
And-
school.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And so.
So the point is that if there's going to be exemptions to vaccinations,
Mhm.
and especially if the language is very broad, which could be many vaccinations, not
Right.
just COVID,
Mhm.
then they need to know that
Right.
how
Now-
we feel about it.
Yeah. Now, one thing that we did talk about was the fact that that hundreds of bills, I mean, obviously there have been 477 plus bills that were introduced in the House, and very few of those will actually become law. And the history of our legislature is that the House tends to pass many more bills than the Senate. And that, I think, is part of the design of having the two bodies and the checks and the balances and so forth. Because of the language in here, because of the topic and so forth, this bill may or may not get a lot of traction among other legislators. At this point, there was not a lot of support that has been demonstrated for it. So, but as it came from a local representative, again, it was one of the things that I thought we might hear conversation about and that we should be aware of. So,
Well, once again, I'm glad you're on top of it.
Thank you very much. Okay, do we have a Safety and Drug Committee report, Ms. Powers? Okay.
really have anything going with the holidays right now. So
Okay.
that
All,
won't kick in again till after the first of the year.
all right. We are finally to the business section. So at this point, I would accept a motion to approve draft minutes from our October 21st regular meeting and November 4th special meeting.
So moved?
Motion by Ms. Savage,
Second?
second by Ms. Powers. Any questions, revisions, comments about the minutes? If not, a roll call, please.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Ms. Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Luke?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
yes.
Ms. Devine?
Yes, motion carries. Next on our agenda, I would accept a motion to approve the superintendent contract.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Powers,
Second.
second by Mr. Smith. Comments from anyone? I know I talked about our process. I think we had some really good discussions. I think we feel very fortunate to have Mrs. Allen as our superintendent, and especially fortunate that she likes Marysville and wants to stay here. So,
Yes, I just want to say thank you for staying with us another 5 years, and we appreciate that.
I just wanted to second what Sue said earlier, that we did put quite a bit of time and energy into this. And we want you to continue as the leader of this district. So I hope if we approve the contract that you will accept it.
Yeah, I want to say that it's a pleasure to work with you. And earlier I mentioned that with school levies, it's important for a school district to know its benchmark. And I was reminded just after I said that our athletic director, Joey Day, has that as the tagline for his athletic department: be the benchmark. And Marysville has had lots of great leadership over time, and Marysville has had excellent schools. And there have been times when we have excelled, and there are times when we have struggled. But in the time that you've been here, as we've experienced both of those, we are on a great trajectory. And as I was trying to emphasize toward the end, in many ways we are the benchmark that other districts want to be. And I think that your willingness to commit to this district for the next 5 years allows us to make a commitment to you. And I look forward to working with you for the next 5 years. And I look forward to seeing just where this district can grow and how we can be better. Because as old coaches say, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. And I know we're getting better. So thank you.
I wanted to take a minute to say thank you for your vision. It's one of the first things that I noticed after joining the board. Having a superintendent that has a vision of where you want to go, and then also has the ability to execute that vision and step-by-step process is very rare. So I want to say thank you very much for that, singular ability to help keep everyone focused and moving in the same direction. So as you used in presentations we had to get all our arrows
That's right.
going in the same direction. And I truly appreciate you being able to do that and being open to innovation and supporting collaboration with our wonderful staff that we have in Marysville.
And I just need to piggyback on that. And I think about the team that you have surrounded yourself with, and just your willingness to challenge them to, maybe not willingness, that's not the right word, but your ability to challenge them, and always keeping the focus on our students, without question. So it's wonderful. The more we go out for professional development, the more we hear from outside this community. And I wish that community members in general could hear some of the things that we hear when we're out there. Because, when you live here all the time and what you've experienced, maybe your entire experience in school has just been Marysville, you may not realize how special it is here. So, and I think that that's a reflection of your leadership and like you said, your vision. So thank you very much. With that, how about a roll call?
Ms. Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes?
Mr. Luke?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Ms. Devine?
Yes, motion carries.
Is it okay if I say something?
Sure, please do,
So,
yes.
First of all,
Yeah,
it's
do you
very hard
accept?
for
Do you
me to
accept?
sit there and listen. So I appreciate the kind words. And the bottom line is this is a great place to be. And I think when I first came, the idea was that Marysville was kind of a hidden gem, and it was time to kind of peel some things off and shine it up. And really, staff has rallied even beyond what we thought was possible. They just really needed some maybe permission to do the things that they were passionate about doing in a different way. And so I would just tell you, I really think in this district, the sky's the limit. So we'll continue to push. I also would say that your leadership as a board and willingness to learn what we're doing matters a lot. And so the fact that when I come forward and say, hey, what do you think about this mastery learning thing? Let's read a book together. Your willingness to do that and rally behind and question and push really just makes all of us stronger. So I appreciate being part of such a dynamic and great team as well. So thank you as well. I appreciate the confidence.
Great. That's kind of a sigh of relief there. Let's move forward. Woo. Okay, next, I would accept a motion to approve the resignation of Jamie Powers, Special Education Aide, effective November 26, 21.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Smith. Oh, sorry, I missed something. Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. I was doing so well, and it's even highlighted there.
I will
Okay.
I will withdraw my motion.
Thank you for following the whatever the process correctly.
Please don't skip the treasure items.
I know, yeah, it's kind of an important one too. How about a motion to accept the treasurer CFO action items?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Powers,
Second.
second by Ms. Savage. Sorry about that, Todd. Okay, would you like to share anything with us?
Well, I mean, there's not a whole lot to share, but there is
Right.
November
Yes.
forecast on there that I presented last month, so that was on there. Other items are pretty much.
That's okay. For the tape.
Yes. thank
Yes,
you.
okay.
So in case you didn't hear, the five-year forecast for November is on there for approval that I presented last October. Other items are pretty much the usual, although our appropriation increases are much higher than normal because of our carryover from prior year federal grants is been reallocated in there, as well as just some other increases in federal grant allocations from the Department of Education.
Okay. And as we have talked about several times with that five-year forecast, it does show a deficit at the end, and that is one of the reasons why we're having all of our levy conversations. So,
Correct.
so we're planning well in advance and have been, so.
And just for message kind of for the public is that five-year forecast is available on the school website for anybody to look at.
Yeah.
So.
And if you look at that and just happen to have a few questions, there's also somebody available who would love to talk to you about the
Yep.
five-year forecast. Mr. Johnson. Okay, any other questions or comments? Roll call?
Ms. Powers?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Luke?
Yes.
Mr. Smith? Yes. Ms. Devine?
Yes, motion carries. And now, I would accept a recommendation to approve the resignation of Jamie Powers, Special Education Aide at Northwood, effective November 26th.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Smith,
Second.
second by Ms. Savage. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Luke?
Yes.
Ms. Powers?
Abstain.
Ms. Devine?
Yes, motion carries. And next week, I would accept a motion to approve our superintendent items.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Powers,
Second.
second by Ms. Savage. Go ahead, yes.
All right, so I think you did hear Mrs. Lentz, and so I just one more time like to reiterate our gratitude to Connie Miller, who's been a legacy here for 24 years when I looked it up, somewhere in that range. So I'll wish her well, and we'll miss her for sure. You have second read and policy approvals. There's a long list of those we talked about a little bit last month. We also have on there a resolution for the change in the substitute teacher qualifications. That's really just to align ourselves with a new provision that they have made. So it does change the qualifications level. I'm not confident that it will actually maybe deepen our pool, but we'll be hopeful that that may happen. I also wanted to bring your attention to a change in the calendar. Well, I would also mention that we have a library board on as well. She's always so patient and waits for us till the very end, but I would also recognize that. But I would also, I have put on the agenda for potential approval, really making December 20th and 21st, which is a Monday and Tuesday prior to the beginning of winter break, to make those non-school days. And so you may be saying, well, Diane, we heard this common theme of 5 days in-person instruction. What I would also tell you is our staff and students have this has been a tough year on everyone. I think with bus driver shortages, changing routes on parents and where students are being picked up, and everyone's been amazing in that feat. And I do know when 2 days of school right before Christmas break are positioned as those are, sometimes it's difficult to get everyone keyed in. So my thinking really is about just boosting our opportunity to reconnect with families at home and regenerate a little bit and refocus a little bit. And so that's why I'm bringing that forward for your consideration tonight.
Along that, I know as we went through the buildings, one of the recurring themes was the fact that not only was there academic learning that had to take place, but kids had to learn how to be in a classroom with other kids, sit in a chair, share. One teacher commented that one of the questions they had to answer was, what was a drinking fountain? That students are under a lot of pressure. They haven't had the socialization that we would normally expect them to have, and that has created, and it was fairly obvious, it has created tensions within the classroom and tensions for the teachers to have to deal with. And I think other school districts have looked and said, we need some mental health time. We need to remember that we've got families and friends and ourselves that we need to be able to take care of. And so I appreciate you thinking of that. I think that it's important for our teachers to be able to have a bit of time to kind of unwind a little bit more rather than just jump into all of their family obligations and so forth. You know, it's everybody has their holiday stresses of trying to get meals and packages and all those kinds of things done. And if we can do something to reduce that stress and make the holidays a little more merry, and hopefully get the kids to be able to refocus a little bit and come back more energized and more enthusiastic, it'll be a good thing.
I also appreciate, I know a lot of school districts were discussing doing this at this Thanksgiving time frame. One lesson that we did learn is that parents need time to plan for childcare, and springing something on them at the last minute is actually not helpful. It actually causes a lot more stress to the family. So giving some notice now that people have 4 or 5 weeks to decide what they're going to do with childcare, I think is much more helpful to the district as a whole.
I think from our building visits that we've taken so far, I mean, that it was so obvious how hard everybody is working. And so I have no doubt that that they're going to get the job done. You know, and kind of like when you're really busy, sometimes if you have fewer days, you're much more what's the word I'm looking for? Productive. Yes, you're much more productive, you know. So I think having that chance to kind of catch your breath a little bit and just get ready for the new year is a good thing. So, and kind of going back to some of the other things that you've talked about on there, I also noticed since we went to transportation that Pam Warline was on there. As she came back as the secretary, she told us that that retirement was not quite what she was looking for. So we really, I mean, our transportation department is just rocking back there. And even with Tina leaving, the work that they've done, the transition and everything is great. But it was nice to see Pam back there. Also, let's see, Nisa, I don't know if you wanted to, was there anything that you wanted to share about this board member appointment or not?
I didn't really have anything prepared.
Okay, that's fine.
They interviewed 5 candidates, and this was the recommendation of the board.
Okay,
He seems delightful. I've only met him briefly.
okay, great. Well, I know,
Yeah, I'd like to also, we've got quite a few policy changes that are up for approval, and the vast majority of them are driven by changes in state law, and there's no real decision whether we do this or not. I would like to point out that one of the provisions that is before us helps in the transition for military families, opening up some remote learning opportunities for students to begin their education at their new school before they actually physically make a move. And I think that's an important aspect of it. I'd also point out that our governance team operating protocols and statements of principles are going to be updated. We, as a board, have procedures and protocols that we follow in terms of our operation. We may look a little haphazard sometimes, but we actually do have processes and procedures in place to ensure that we operate in a business-like and professional manner. So,
thank you. Finally, I just want to point out that resolution for the substitute teacher is just for this school year, as of right now.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
I think people are, we're not the only district experience. We just had superintendent's meeting this week, and it's the same conversation. Mental health is a concern on staff. As I mentioned earlier, we have teachers who aren't getting their plan time for a week because they're covering for other people who are absent. So it's
right.
You know, a welcome change. Just
Yes.
not
Yes.
sure what that will, but how it will benefit us, or if it will for sure.
Right.
So.
Okay. I'll accept a roll call, please.
Ms. Powers?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Luke?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
yes.
Ms. Devine?
Yes, motion carries. And now we will have comments and questions from board members. So I think we'll start with you, Ms. Powers.
Okay, well, first of all, congratulations, Nan and Dick, and also Bill, to keep on going, and a new one coming on board. So great to have you. So as
I know. It's okay. Take a deep breath.
Well, all of you know that it's been in the works for a while that we were going to be moving. And I tried to do this with no tears, but it would be be remiss for me not to be upset. It's been a great 10-year ride, but I am moving out of the district, and so my resignation will be effective this Monday.
Well, Amy, I know, that's, we've had a great
Yes,
ride together, haven't
yeah,
we?
we have,
I
we
know,
have.
I know, and I know it's, you know, you had said something to me, and it sounds like things just kind of moved quicker than before.
They
and,
did.
And I know,
The house got finished quicker, everything started moving pretty fast, and so I thought, it's no big deal, I can deal with this. Well, I'm silly for the team.
yeah, I know. Well, and as, I guess on the positive side, we have been through this before.
Yes,
And I think we all felt good about the process that we used
yes.
the last time, so our
And I'll
plan.
be here no matter what.
That's, oh, I know, yeah.
I'll be helping
You're
out
not
on
that
the
far
side,
away,
yeah.
are you?
I'll be helping out on the levies and side things.
Right, we really appreciate that. So, yeah, so anyways, we'll plan to use that similar process. I mean, Nan was a direct result of that
I was
process.
the candidate he interviewed 5 years ago, so.
Right, okay,
And the process from people interested in being on the board and applying through the system is fairly simplistic, and the interview process was effective and interesting.
okay, good. And just for anyone watching, again, there's legislation covering this as well, so we will have 30 days to replace or to find a new board member. So we'll have some information going out tomorrow, I believe, and applications will be available, things like that, and then the board will just move forward. So
I just want to say it's been a total blessing.
well, we've so appreciated your dedication to the board, Amy. You know, I mean, just being our safety and drug committee person and just always so upbeat. You've been a real cheerleader for Marysville, and it's been fun hanging out with you too.
Yeah.
I know. Oh, okay, Nan.
I don't know, that's kind of hard to follow.
I know. Yeah.
Thank you to all the schools that we toured on Tuesday and Wednesday. Sue and I went to Tri-Academy, the Transportation Department, and what was our third?
Creekview, Bunzel.
Creekview, Bunsold, Edgewood, and Raymond.
Yes.
Okay. And we actually took a couple field trips off the plan and visited the technology department and said thank you to those gentlemen because they have been helping us out a lot this year with trying some new stuff along with the entire staff trying new stuff. So we were real grateful. And we even got a demo out of that.
Yes.
And we learned a little bit about the virtual academy from Scott when we were over at Tri-Academy. That was kind of a nice update. That was a little bit unexpected. Visiting Tri, what a gem in a gem that place is for the students that need the special one-on-one attention to get their life going the correct direction. So that was a wonderful experience. Saw so many teachers, and they are working so hard, and so many kids with smiles. So they are truly resilient.
Mr. Luke.
I just have a couple comments. I didn't get to visit as many buildings as I would have liked, but the ones that I did, it was always such a learning experience. It really is irreplaceable, and it was too bad that we couldn't do it last year. But I knew what the teachers were going through, but I knew it indirectly. And talking to some of the teachers this week about last year, my jaw just kind of dropped when some of them were describing in detail what they were called upon to do last year. And I wanted to say to them, and you're still in education. And I'm so grateful that you are. what we've been through, what these teachers have been through, and the administrators and everybody in the field was really almost overwhelming, and yet they did it. And now we're back in the buildings and we're recovering and we're moving forward. So that was one of the lessons I got from the building visit. The other comment I had was about the big picture. We have a lot of things coming together here about vision. One is the new meetings for the strategic plan. And you mentioned a headline. What do you want the headline to be in 5 or 10 years? And Dick was talking about benchmarks. And we have a new superintendent contract. We have a lot of continuity on the board, although there's some change. I'm also stepping back. But I think there's enough continuity that we can be confident that what we've been doing since Amy's been on the board, since I've been on the board, since our leaders here have been here, is going to continue. This district, you could call it a hidden gem, but what we need to do now is not make it so hidden, because it's been a gem for a while. It's been a gem for quite a while, and I think it's going to continue to get better. And one of the big challenges is going to be to get that word out, whether you're on the board or administrator or a teacher or a parent or a student. We all need to be talking about how great this district is so people know. And I'm going to continue working on that, whether I'm on the board or not. So that was one of my comments about vision in the future.
Thank you very much. Mr. Smith?
Amy, first night I showed up for a school board meeting, you told me I had to sit at the end of the table. And I'm still sitting at the end of the table. But I think all of us know how much you mean to us, both as a board member and also as a person. And I have known you and your family for a number of years in a lot of different capacities. And it has been a real pleasure. And I will miss you, even sitting at the end of the table. You know, we've talked about the visits, and I think I can speak for Bill. Yesterday and the day before, for both of us, was very impactful. You come in and you have little idea of what's going on, and then you walk through and you talk to people and you observe, and you hear what they say, both with their eyes and their facial expressions and their mouth. There were so many happy kids, excited kids, focused kids that were engaged in learning. Every single classroom we went into was just a storm of energy, all focused on learning, and that was exciting. And the teachers were thrilled to be there, and the fact that they chose to be there and to be doing the things that are asked of them is a testament to their character, their professionalism. And that was just absolutely astounding. I appreciate Mr. Steele, Bill, from coming in and expressing his opinions to the board today. And as we have listened to parents and people from the community in the past, we take all those things to heart, and they all become important as to our decision-making processes. And if we err, and I kind of joked about this yesterday, if we err, we do that after lots of thoughtful discussion. It is our intention to make the right decision for every single kid in this district. and that is a difficult challenge at best. I wanted to also mention we took special time to thank all the cafeteria workers. Over the last 18 months, they have fed, one said, over 100,000 meals to the kids in our community. And I have no idea whether that's accurate or not, but I can be assured that that is probably an understatement. What they have done is just absolutely incredible. And I would call out also our backpack, blessings in a backpack on weekends. We've got, I think, 250-ish kids that get a backpack of food to take home so they have something to eat on the weekend. And if we don't have well-nourished kids, the academics are hard to achieve. And so we've got some really dedicated people in our community, and particularly on our staff, that are doing their best. Some of the lunch programs, I think Creekview said they were over 300 breakfasts every morning. Other school buildings were well over 100 that were serving breakfast. So we've got lots of people doing wonderful things in our district. I want to again thank our superintendent and our treasurer for their diligence and leadership. Really important, and I think demonstrated very much by the meeting and the information we got today. And thank you to everyone. I enjoy working on this body and being a part of it. I have enjoyed the diversity of the membership of this board. I look forward to Mr. Keck joining us and bringing his perspective, and know that as Mr. Luke pointed out, changes will occur. That's inevitable, but the focus and the direction is always onward and upward.
Mrs. Powers had asked to make a couple more comments.
So since I was so very sad, now we're going to end on a happy note, okay? Go Monarchs, okay? We are going all the way, so let's do it. All of us, we need to be there Friday night to support this team. And like I said, I'm sad to leave, but you guys aren't really getting rid of me. I just want you to know.
Okay, Mr. Johnson.
I would just congratulate Nan and Dick for being reelected. Congratulate Diane for the new contract. Just very happy that we're keeping our team together, and just looking forward to many more years working together. Congratulate Bill. Looking forward to working with you. And then also, obviously, thank you, Amy. It's been great working with you for these years. Very sad to see you go, but obviously you've had a huge impact on the district, and it'll be a lasting impact, well after you're gone.
Thank you. Diane.
Sure. Congratulations, re-election, newly elected. We're certainly happy to have everyone and continue our forward direction. Also, congratulations to the entire board for receiving a Board of Distinction a couple weeks ago now, isn't it? But certainly, if our public doesn't realize, you were only one of two boards of education that were honored for that award, and just speaks to your dedication to public education, interested in making a difference for all the kids in Ohio and specifically Marysville. So really proud of your accomplishment in that vein. Just want to continue to say, to the district, I thought Carol said it great, and I think we've been saying it all year. We know how to continue to chunk away at the losses, the learning losses, and I'm very confident that that will continue to happen. And the leadership in our buildings is completely committed to making that happen, whether it's transitioning back and learning how to be a good classmate, or learning your math facts, right? All of that is important to our growth, so we'll continue to chip away with that. Also, Amy, I would say in many ways, the district will be losing someone that is just an absolute champion for kids. And thank you for being that. Even kids that sometimes don't have any champion, you find the positive in them and find ways to lift them. And I think that's just such an admirable and amazing quality. And so from my seat, thanks for your support. Thanks for being that person for kids. I know that I'm still going to cash in on you when it comes to levy campaigns. And so know that you're not out of the woods, but certainly appreciate your commitment to this district, to our students, and to the education of all our kids in the community. And lastly, I would thank everyone for their flexibility in moving this meeting and able to go to the pep rally. We have a amazing band that just got ones across the board, so I want to make sure I point that out. And certainly they marched through that stadium with our football team and cheerleaders. And so I just think this is what's coming off of a really kind of tension-filled time. It's such a positive for our community and such an opportunity for us to get on that ship together and rally behind our community and kids and teams. So I'm excited for 6 o'clock.
45 minutes and counting.
That's right.
I know. Well, when you were talking about Amy and how you're going to be, using her in the future and stuff, I mean, I know if there's anybody who can rally volunteers and get people to do things, it's Amy, just kind of put her in charge of something. So I know yep. Don't get me started. So those building visits it's just always so uplifting to be in the buildings. When you were talking about the food service and everything, it just reminded me when we went to Edgewood that Ginger at Edgewood was saying how they're averaging 250 to 275 grab-and-go breakfasts every single day. And for a while, she was doing it by herself, getting these bags ready, And those are the kinds of things that our community needs to know, And when you hear those comments about, teachers, they get the summers off, da-da-da. I mean, the reality is our employees are just amazing. They're so dedicated to serving the kids and their families. So I just want everyone to know that. Then, yes, of course, good luck to the football team. It's exciting. Our winter sports are getting started. I've seen a couple posts on Facebook, pictures of basketball scrimmages, and I hate to say it, but I still haven't even been in that new gym officially. I've kind of peeked through the doors, so I'm looking forward to going to a basketball game or two. Thought it was nice. The FFA had a newsletter that came out recently, had some articles and comments from alumni, current members, and some of the work that they're doing to promote their program. I appreciate that. I saw there is a bowling fundraiser on November 20th at Dragon Lanes, so if anybody's out at Dragon Lanes, I didn't see a time, but and then we have a job fair at Northwood on Saturday, so that's to find employees for our district, I believe. So hopefully if anybody's listening and they're looking for a job, you get the sense of how great a place this is to work. So hopefully you'll show up at that job fair. I also had the honor of attending Clue, the high school play this last weekend. It was incredible. I don't know if anyone else had a chance to go, but I was just blown away by the abilities of our students and the leadership of the staff that helps put that on. So that was amazing. Bunsold is going to be putting on the musical Elf December 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and they have a promo this next Monday at Partners Park from that's the 22nd from 5:30 to 7:30. So if you're out there and you want to kind of get a glimpse of what that's going to be like, stop out at Partners Park. Then the reminder for the Economic Development 411, ED 411, it's a virtual event December 3rd from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. So if you're interested in that, I think we all got emails. Also thinking that we're going to have a lot of state qualifiers to recognize, so which is a great thing. And I think with that, just one more thank you to Amy. We are really going to miss you, but like you said, you're going to be nearby. We'll be seeing you, and then and we do have that special meeting tomorrow morning at 8:30 here, executive session. So we'll see you at the pep rally. We'll see you tomorrow morning. With that, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oops, hey, wait a second. I do need to thank Carol again, though, for a great presentation. Thank you, Carol. Okay. Motion by Ms. Powers,
Second?
second by Mr. Smith. Roll call.
Ms. Powers? Yes. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Luke? Yes. Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Vine?
Yes, motion carries. Our meeting is adjourned at 5:19. Thank you.